Hi, I'm Lisa McClendon, and this is all about fact-checking and getting it right, just the basics of what you need to do as an editor. First off, you need to be skeptical. And the rule of thumb about this is if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. There are a lot of questions that you can ask yourself that are good skeptical questions. It doesn't mean you're not, you don't trust anything. It doesn't mean you're cynical about everything. It just means that as a good journalist, you need to be asking yourself and asking your story these questions. Who benefits? What's the motivation? What's being left out? Why should a reader find this credible? And also, you need to have a pretty finely tuned BS detector. And this is a really simple process. You think about who is telling you something. How do they know this? Is it possible that they're wrong? And it may be possible. It doesn't say probable. It just says possible. If it's possible, then check it somewhere else. Find another source for this. Double check it out until you're really sure that something is not BS. And see, they have a nice little cutout that you can put on your computer if you want to. As a journalist, you're going to develop a sense of sort of what's right and what's wrong, your gut. So trust your gut. And as you get a little bit further into your journalism career, you're going to develop a much better sense of this. But first off, anytime something seems a little hanky, it seems a little weird, just check it out. Even if you're like, well, there's no reason this would be wrong, it might be. So check it. Never assume that you already know something. Never assume that somebody else already knows something. Just check it out. It doesn't take you very long to check things, so check it out. And do also realize that just because somebody keeps saying something over and over again, or even if a bunch of people are saying the same thing, that doesn't necessarily make it true. All right. Politicians are really good at this. They get a set of talking points, they share the talking points, and then everybody says the talking points. And the talking points may not be true, but they're all going from the same original source, which if it's not true, then they're all repeating something that isn't true or isn't accurate. It may not be an out and out lie, but it may be a misleading claim, an incomplete claim, something like that. So always check that kind of stuff out. With content, you want to verify lots of things, and there's questions that you can ask yourself about this. Where did this come from? Where did I first see it? Is this a legit source of information? Who else has this information? This one in particular is good because sometimes you see something, especially on social media, that you're like, holy cow. Look around and see if anybody else has it. And if one source is the only source of this information, it may not be that they scooped everybody else. It may be that they screwed it up. So you want to be kind of careful about this. Think about how a source has checked information. And also think about, is this even valuable to my audience? What value is my audience going to find in me passing on this piece of information, especially if I'm not 100% sure that it's accurate? So really think about this. Is it going to be valuable to them to know something that may or may not be true? And anytime you find yourself saying, well, if this is true, then, that if this is true, there is a big red flag for journalists, okay? Because you don't want to be passing on something that you have to ask if this is true about. You want it to be true. You want to know it's true. So be careful about that. And then sometimes does it seem legit or does it just look fake? You've got a pretty good eye about this. You consume a lot of media. Does it just kind of look fakey? If it looks fakey, check it out because it probably is. And you also want to look at sources. Who is the person giving this information? Where does this person work? Are they on social media? If they're supposed to be an expert in something, how can you find them? Do they have a blog? Do they have a Twitter account? Do they have their own website? What do they have to gain from publishing or sharing this? And this is something, really check out health information online, because a lot of websites and a lot of blogs and a lot of people on Twitter who are pushing some kind of health information or other have something to benefit. They're selling something. They're selling you a cookbook. They're selling you pamphlets. They're selling you vitamins or supplements or whatever. And so they have an agenda. their agenda is to sell whatever it is they're selling. And so they're going to give you information that's going to scare you or maybe mislead you or maybe exaggerate the truth because they want to sell something. Okay. So with health information in particular, making sure it's coming from a doctor is good, but making sure it's coming from a doctor who is part of a hospital, a nonprofit, the CDC, a government office or something like that, that's going to be a little bit more legit. Check out their website, make sure they're not trying to sell you something because they're probably promoting that with the information that they're sharing if they are. Of course, Google you can use to verify things. It's always a good idea. Start there, see what you can find. Realize that the first search result that comes up may not be the one you want. It may be an ad. It may be one that's just really popular. It may be one that's selling something. So scroll down when you get search results. Government statistics are really good for verifying facts and figures and things like that. Look through news archives to see when stuff happened, where stuff happened, what was going on at the time. Whois lookup can tell you who owns a web domain. And Snopes, of course, you should already have Snopes bookmarked, just because it is really the best for journalists right away on social media to see, has somebody else fact checked this already? Okay, because you don't want to spend 15 or 20 minutes fact checking something if somebody else has already done the legwork for you. So this is also really good for stuff that you find on social media, oddball emails that crazy relatives send you, that kind of stuff. So you can always check that out. Photos. Yes, we used to believe everything we saw because there's pics or it didn't happen. Well, sometimes pics didn't happen. And photos are very easily faked now with digital technology. So you need to be pretty careful about that. And things that you need to find out about a picture. When was it taken? What's actually happening? Where did this happen and who published it? A lot of times photos are actually legit. They're real pictures. They're just mislabeled. So you may see a photo that says, oh, this is, during Hurricane Dorian, the recent hurricane. Maybe it was during a hurricane, but not that hurricane. Or maybe it was during a hurricane, but it was in Mexico City, not in Miami. All that kind of stuff. So you have to be really careful. What's the context? Where did it come from? Who published it? Did the Associated Press publish it? Then it's probably legit. Did somebody just run it on their blog or post it on Instagram? Maybe it's not then. And if you're sort of suspicious about something, there are ways that you can check that. And that is the reverse image search. So TinEye and Google Images are really good. You plug a picture in, just like you would plug a search term into Google, you plug a picture in and it'll tell you, where has this photo been published all over the internet? When did it first appear on the internet? What are very closely related photos to it? So sometimes if somebody doctored just a little bit of a picture, you can find the original and say, okay, the original picture is a real picture of whatever, but it's been manipulated, it's been faked. And then Photoshop and photo forensics are tools that you can use to see, has somebody messed around with a photo somehow? Those are useful, legitimate tools too. Here's an example. This is one this was actually a picture that I saw in a listing of you see those things on the internet, the best thing about every state or something like that. And this was Kansas. And, it was sort of like, what is every state known for? I think that's what this one was. And it's like, oh, Kansas is known for tornadoes. And I saw this picture and I'm like, oh my God, that is totally fakey. I mean, that just doesn't even look real. First of all, tornadoes don't look like that. And 2 tornadoes at once, that's really rare. And so, turning my BS journalism detector on, I decided to run this through TinEye. So I did. And I selected the oldest. That's down here. You can sort of see where it gives you a little drop down. So it can give you the best match or it can give you the oldest. I like going back to the oldest because that will get closest to the original. Okay. So, and then a couple of pictures come up. Well, okay, here's the very first one on March 26, 2013, this one here. And it's not an exact match, but it looks like a thunderstorm and, occasionally you can get lightning like this. Okay, this one here is a few months after that in November of 2013, and it's got this first little fakey looking tornado in here. Okay, and this is on Shutterstock. So I thought, okay, this is the one that looks like here's the beginning of this fake. So let's go to Shutterstock and see. So I go to Shutterstock. Well, the account holder here, he's an illustrator, or she, and a vector artist. Okay, that means this picture's fake. Okay, because they're illustrating, they're adding art to it. Okay, but the problem is when you add art to something and then you post it on someplace like Shutterstock, a lot of people don't pay close enough attention to your account description to know, is this, oh wait, this is an artist, of course this picture's fake. So they grab it, they share it, it goes viral, it will not die. As you can see, that picture's from 2013, it just keeps coming up. And so, you know, they go around. But this is indeed a faked picture. A lot of fake pictures start with real pictures. Okay, so the first one that we saw is a real picture of a thunderstorm, and then somebody thought, oh, wouldn't it be great to add a tornado? And then apparently somebody else thought, oh, wouldn't it be great to add an extra tornado because 2 tornadoes are better than 1? But it's fake. It's all fake in there. So that's one way you can check. And you can check really quickly. I mean, this did not take long to figure out. I mean, you look at it and you know it's fake. But if you want to verify that it's fake, you can do that. And this whole thing, you know, takes 5 minutes. What you really need to do with fact checking, though, is you just need to think. You need to keep your brain on about this. And you need to figure out, you know, ask yourself the questions. Do I have attribution for every fact? Do I have attribution from reliable and unbiased sources? Do I have all the facts? Is something left out? Are there big questions? Do all these facts make sense? You know, does everything kind of hold together? Is there something kind of hanky about this? Is there, you know, something that doesn't quite add up? Those are the questions you need to, don't ignore that voice in your head, okay? If you're like, just like this guy here. If you're like, I don't know about this, listen to that voice going, I don't know about this, and then check it. Check every fact you can, all right? Check it all. Check names, check dates, check locations, check numbers, check everything that you can check, because everything should be checked. Even if you think someone else has checked it, you check it too. And I know you probably didn't want to hear math, but do the math. Think about numbers, think about the math, think about how could you even count that, okay? People throw numbers in a story sometimes kind of assuming that nobody's going to look too closely at them because, ew, math. But a lot of times these numbers really don't make any sense. They don't add up. They don't, how could you even measure that? Crowd estimates in particular, there are some formulas where you can kind of figure out how big a crowd is, but they're guesstimates. And so you're never going to get a really exact number of people who are there unless there were individual tickets and seats sold. Okay, so like for a sporting event or whatever, they can count the number of tickets they sold. So if they said, you know, 23,632 people were at the Kansas City Royals game last night, they know how many tickets they sold. That doesn't, however, actually mean that there were that many people there, because sometimes people buy tickets and they can't use them, or they have season tickets and they don't go to every game, or they're late, or they left early, or whatever. So at any given time, there may not be that whole number of people sitting in the stadium, but you can actually get a pretty good idea through ticket sales of how many people were there. Also think about, where did a number come from? Okay, who would know this? And is the source of the number somebody who would actually know this? And what was the context of this? And if it's old, is the number still true? Okay, if it's a statistic from 10 years ago, see if there's something a little bit more recent. Okay, because things change and you want as up-to-date a number as you can get. Also, be really wary of numbers from studies. Go back and check it. How was the study done? How many people did they ask? What kind of questions did they ask? Can they apply all of that to everybody? So be careful about that. Anytime you have arithmetic in a story, and people, this is like 3rd grade math. This is addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, percents. Anytime you have arithmetic in a story, check it, okay? Count up items in lists. If a headline gives me 6 tips for packing your suitcase better, there had better be 6 things in the story. And you think I'm kidding, but I am not. I have seen so many times where the headline and the number of items in the list do not match. So be careful about that. And also look and see if the number even makes sense. And this is a really good example of a number not even making sense. This is an AP story out of St. Louis, and they talked about a 210 square foot expansion to the St. Louis Art Museum. Now, anybody who had been thinking about this at all would realize that 210 square feet is like the size of your living room. You know, I mean, maybe a little bit bigger than that, but the size of a classroom, maybe a smallish classroom is 200 square feet, okay? Why would they make a big deal about adding, you know, a storage closet into an art museum? They wouldn't. And if somebody had sort of stopped and thought before that article went out, then AP would not have had to issue the correction that, in fact, it was 210,000 square feet instead of 210. This is what I mean by keep your brain on. I mean, just pay attention to that kind of stuff, because that's a really embarrassing correction to write, and you don't want to be writing one like that. Always check names. Check it, double check it. KU directory lets you check KU students, faculty, and staff. Check them on social media. Check them on their business or organization's website. While you're at it, check the name of the business and the organization too. Check the name of government agencies. Check it. You can do this. This is super easy now because we have Google. All right. You don't have to look it up in a book like we used to have to do that a couple decades ago. Okay. Check the dates too. If a date is mentioned, check it. If it says Wednesday, September 12th, make sure September 12th is a Wednesday. All right. If somebody's age is given, make sure it's correct and make sure it makes sense in context. Okay. So if somebody is 77 years old and it says they're a World War II veteran, that can't be right. Because if they're 77 years old, they were born during World War II. Okay. So it's either the age is wrong or the war is wrong. And don't guess. Do not assume, oh, the age must be wrong, or, oh, it must be Vietnam. No, ask. This is where you do not assume, you ask. Always check your locations too. Check the spelling of a place name. If it says it's north, south, east, or west of something, check that. If it says it's a north-south running road, check that. If it's an intersection, check that those streets actually intersect. This is really easy too. Guess what? You've got Google Maps. Just use that. You don't have to look it up in an atlas anymore. It takes you 10 seconds, so check it. Check the quotes too. I'm not sure why my little quotation mark messed up here, but it sure did, so oh well. If a quote seems funny coming from someone, check it with the writer. Occasionally a not gets dropped, and believe it or not, that does happen. And that's a really bad mistake because it makes it completely the opposite, but that does happen. And if you have a historical figure like Winston Churchill or Mark Twain or Abraham Lincoln, who is said to be the source of a quote, double check that. And again, this is where you really don't want to check the first page of Google search results on that, okay? Because a ton of quotes get attributed to Mark Twain or Winston Churchill, then they never said that. But Brainy Quote and, you know, Quote Matrix and all those quote sites on the internet, they all like pillage each other's databases. And so a wrong quote gets shared and shared and shared and shared and shared. And so the first 20 search results may have it say, oh yeah, you know, Mark Twain did say that, when in fact, it's just a bunch of people all copying each other saying that Mark Twain said that when the original source is wrong. All right. So this is where you may have to dig back through, go to a library site, see if somebody has fact checked that for you, because some more popular quotes that get misattributed are already checked. So see if somebody has checked that out for you. But be really skeptical of quotes that are very pithy or sound like, oh, somebody just said something and then slapped Mark Twain's name on it. And last but not least, Wikipedia. What should we do with Wikipedia? It can be a really valuable resource for fact checking, but start there. Don't end there. What Wikipedia can do, what's really good about it, is the footnotes and the links at the bottom of the page. All right, because those go to primary sources. Those help you find original information about stuff from, you know, government sites, from historical sites, from news sites, things like that, things that are already vetted. So you know, okay, yeah, anybody can edit that, which is kind of a good thing and a bad thing. But good editors will cite their sources, and the cited sources, that's where you want to go to check the facts. So the footnotes and the links, that's really what you want for Wikipedia. So yeah, I'm not saying never use Wikipedia. I'm saying it's a great place to start, but do not end there. Do not end at Wikipedia. So this is a really brief overview of fact checking. There's a lot of ways you can kind of dig into it, and we'll do some of that practice in class. But for now, you've got a nice overview.